Another way to put it is trust is based on truth. Trust is based on truth. When I refer to truth, it refers to reality that is tested and reality that is tried. Okay? So let me show you what I mean. I have been married for 27 years now. Some of you may believe it, some of you may not. But here's the proof that I've been married for 27 years. I'm wearing this wedding ring. Now, the truth of this being a gold ring is that up to now, it is still gold. And how do I know it is gold? Because it has been tried as gold and it remains to be gold. It has been tested as gold and it still remains as gold. The way you know if gold is when you let it pass through fire as a test, as a trial. Does it still come out as gold? And the answer is, it still comes out gold. If it comes out as gold after being tried and after being tested, it means it's real. It is true. And that's my desire for all of us in our life, that what we go through in life, when we go through a test, we go through a trial, we come out shining like gold. And that is what we want to be real in our life. Now, if the basis of our faith is God, and if God is real, and if God is true, and if God is to be trusted, that means that I need to understand who God is. If the basis of faith is truth, then God must be true. If the basis of my trust is God, God must be trustworthy. Get it? Okay, for some of you may not know what I just did. This is my way of knowing that you are with me and you're not somewhere else. So when I ask you, get it? You will tell me, got it? And I will say, good. Get it? Got it. Good. So, if God is who He is and who He says He is, that He is true, and that He is real, and that I can trust Him, therefore, my faith in God is set apart from other faiths in the world. What it also implies is that if I put my faith in God who is true, who is real, and trustworthy, that means I can be set apart from other people. That's why this series, this brief series of 2 parts, is called Set Apart. What makes our faith? By faith, I mean what we believe and the behavior that comes out of our belief. What makes our faith different? And there will be some questions that we will be answering. Not all questions, but some questions that make us understand our belief and the behavior that comes with our belief. And here's the first one, and you can see this in your notes. The first question people ask, even young people, whether high school or college, they already ask this because they're looking for the meaning and purpose of life. And where does meaning and purpose begin? With this question, when it asks, or people ask, does God exist? Is God real? Can God be trusted? In fact, another question that we can ask in relation to this question, it also says in your notes, is this: where did everything come from? Now, if God is real and He is to be trusted, then where did everything come from? And the answer we get is from the source that is true, a source that can be trusted. And where do we find that source? We find it in the Bible. And this is what the beginning of the Bible says. Where do you find the beginning of the Bible? What book? What is the first book in the Bible? The answer is Genesis. And the word Genesis means beginning. And the book of Genesis is a story of beginnings. The beginning of earth life, the beginning of plant life, the beginning of animal life, the beginning of human life, the beginning of nations, the beginning of the nation of God called Israel. So when we really look at the beginnings, go to Genesis. And the very first verse tells us of the beginning of everything. It says, in the beginning, God created created the heavens and the earth. Now, when we look at this statement, people say, oh, it's a statement of faith. But the truth is, it's really a statement of faith based on fact. It's not based on falsehood. It's not based on something fake. And when people hear the word faith, by the way, faith is here. Your name means a lot. People seem to make it as the opposite of science. Because people think science is truthful, faith is not. That is furthest from the truth. Because science is basically the observation of things as they are in the world. But science does not answer the question, why are things the way they are as we observe them in the world? It's faith that answers why. So they're not opposite. They're actually supplementary to each other. They support each other. That what science observes in nature, faith explains in the supernatural because of what God does and who God is. Now, what does your teacher or our science teachers teach us in elementary and high school about when everything got started? What is the theory? It's called the Big Bang Theory. And talking about Big Bang Theory, my children and I, when we were in Canada, we want to watch this sitcom, weekly comedy called Big Bang Theory. It's a very funny TV sitcom. But this is what the Big Bang Theory says. It basically says that there is a beginning for everything. And that's the effort of the Big Bang to explain how everything began. But I'd like for you to get this. The Big Bang Theory is simply what it is. It is a theory. It is not a law. Give me a law of science that whatever you think or does not think does not make it true or false. What is a law that is always true wherever you are in the world? The law of motion. Okay? What's another law? The law of gravity. You may not believe that the law of gravity works. You may go to the top of the 7th floor of Seda and say, the law of gravity does not apply to me, does not work. And you can jump and the consequence does not change. You still drop dead. Why? Because the law of gravity applies even if you don't believe it. Now, when you talk about the Big Bang Theory, it's not a law, it's a theory. It's a way to propose the beginning of everything. But when you look at the answer to the question, well, who caused the Big Bang? Who caused the start of everything out of nothing? The answer is God. Because we go to Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, what did God do? God created the heavens and the earth. Now let me explain to you that God created everything in relation to what we see in the world. If I give you an example, I gave something to Kim, I hope Kim still has it. Okay, I did it in the first service, and thank you, Kim. What is this? Can you tell me what it is? It's a, if it's not too close, you need to look at it first.
Time bomb.
What is it? It's a
Speaker.
speaker. What kind of speaker? Expensive speaker. A portable speaker. Because I can carry it wherever I go. But this is JBL. See, I'm not promoting JBL, but this is a brand called JBL. What is the name that JBL gives to this particular portable speaker? It's called Clip. What kind of clip? Number version? Clip 2. Okay? Now there are two ways for me to understand what this is and what this does and what this is for. The first and easiest way is to go to whom? To go to the creator, to go to the designer, to go to the inventor. So I go to this person and ask, what is this? What is this for? That's how I know what it is. If I don't see the inventor or the creator, the second best way for me to understand what it is for Kim to come up here and give me, thank you Kim, the owner's manual. Ito na aking promo boy. Okay? And when I bought this Clip 2, they gave me what it is and an instruction. so I can understand how to use this thing. Up to now, I haven't read this thing. But the truth is, God created us. So, God created us and everything around us. That means we can understand Him and the purpose for us and everything around us. And because He is the creator of everything and of our life, we can have a relationship with Him. Not just a religion. Religion is man's best way to reach God. Christianity is a relationship for God to reach men. That's why it's different. That's why our faith is set apart from all other faiths. Now, because God created it and us, the question others ask as a follow-up is, who created God? Right? What's the answer? No one, because God is eternal. God does not have a beginning. God does not have an end. And because He is not created, and He is someone who is without beginning and without end, He is someone who is not the one who is under the spell of creation. He is above creation. So the question we ask is, may forever ba? Ang question, may forever ba? Ang answer is? No.
Yes.
Of course there is love that makes forever true. I like that. The answer is also, yes there is, because God is eternal. What is in math the symbol for infinity? Ayan, nakabaliktad na 8. Horizontal 8. That's called infinity. God is infinite. Everything He created, including us, is finite. We and all of creation we are temporal. God is eternal. That's why we know God created everything and everything came from Him. God is real. But the question we now ask, and some people ask this too, is Jesus this God? Is Jesus that God? Because everything, all matter, has to come from something, and that something is God. It's actually a someone who created out of nothing in 6 days. So the question we ask, is Jesus or is Christ that God? How do we know that? Maybe it's a mistake. The answer is no. He is that God. You know why? This is what He says in John chapter 10, verses 30 to 33. You can see it in your notes. Jesus said, I and the Father are one. When Jesus says, I and the Father are one, it basically says that He is God. He claims to be God. Now, many people explain away that statement that He's not really claiming to be God by saying, well, when Jesus says, I and the Father are one, they interpret it this way. They say that I and the Father are one in purpose, one in goal, one in direction. But that's not true, because Jesus claims He is God. How do we know that? When you look at the passage again in chapter 10, 30 to 33, the Jews who heard this statement wanted to stone Him. Why? Because they called it blasphemy. You claim that you are God. Okay, let's go to... Saan ba si Bats? Nawala si Bats. Okay, mamaya na. Hindi na lang si Bats. Okay, si Kim na lang ulit. Papito ko si Kim ngayon. What if Kim stands up and he says, I am God? Pogi. What will we say? Pogi. Pogi naman ka. We would say, we would say, that's blasphemy, because only God is God. That's basically what Jesus was claiming when He said, I and the Father are one. Now, there are several ways to understand this. I'd like you to engage me here. Can you put on your thinking cap? Okay.
Thinking cup.
Are you there? Did you put it on? Okay. There are only two ways to understand the statement that Jesus said He is God. The first is that what He claims is false. Get it? The other is what He claims is true. Now, if you go to this first part that says what He claims is false, there are only two options. The first option is He does not know that what He says is false. He does not know. Are you with me? Let's go to Kim again. Kim says He is God. And we know it's false. But he does not know it is false. What does it make of him? Anong tawag sa kanya? He is a? L. We will use the letter L for these options. Loko-loko in Tagalog. In English, he's a loony. He's a lunatic. Sira ulo niyan. Sira pala ulo niya. Sinasabi niya, Diyos yan, hindi naman siya Diyos. Pero hindi niya alam eh. So, loko-loko siya. Okay, here's the other option. Jesus says He is God. It is not true, but He knows it is not true. What does it make of Him? He's a liar. That's the other end. So siya, nagsalbi ulit. I am God, and it's wrong. Alam niya na mali yun. Sinabi niya pa rin. Liar siya. Okay. Get it? Good. Now, let's go to the other side. If Jesus claims He is God, and it is true, then what does that make of Him? He is not a lunatic, or loony, or loko-loko. He is not a liar. Then He must be what else? He must be Lord. But again, there are still two choices. What are the two choices? You can either believe that He is who He claims to be, or you can choose not to believe what He claims to be. It's still our choice. But we believe. Why? Because Jesus Himself said in the Bible, John 14:6, Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now Jesus says, I am the way, not one of the ways. You know, many people think of God and coming to God this way. Paano ba pumunta sa office ng Saddleback, South Manila, sa Solenad to sa Nuvali? Pwede kang manggaling sa Tagaytay Road, pababa. Pwede kang manggaling sa SLEX, papunta sa loob. Or pwede kang manggaling sa Binyan, San Pedro, doon sa may Mamplaza. They think that you can come to God in several ways. But that's not what Jesus says. Jesus says, I am the way. He does not say I'm one of the ways to God. He says, I am the way. And then He also says, I am not only the way, I am the truth. Remember, trust is based on truth. Reality that is tested and tried, and then you can trust. He says, I am not one of the truth. I am the truth. There is no other truth apart from me. And then He says, there's a third thing I'd like for you to understand about me. He says, I am the life. He does not say I'm one of the sources of life. He says, I am the life. I'm the only source of life. And then He also says, as if that's not enough, that He's the way, the truth, and life, He also says, no one, simply no one, comes to the Father except through me. That's why we know He is that God who created everything, because He is eternal. Now here's another question that we need to understand. What about the other things? You mean everything else is wrong? Now this is what makes believing in Christ set apart from other faiths. Because He proved that He is God. How? What is that ultimate proof or test or trial that He is indeed God, the God He claims to be? What did He do? He resurrected. The resurrection is the proof that Jesus is different from all other religious leaders. Who is the religious leaders of Islam? Who's the religious leader?
Muhammad.
Allah is the God. Who is the leader who started that movement called Islam? Muhammad. Who is the leader of Buddhism? Buddha. Who are the leaders of Hinduism? There are 330 million gods. These are the three largest world religions: Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, apart from Christianity. What makes Jesus set apart from all these big world religions? Only Jesus rose from the dead. Muhammad didn't, Buddha didn't, and all these 330 million gods can only reincarnate. But no one in his entirety rose from the dead. And how do we know that his rising from the dead is true? 3 proofs. 1, the empty tomb. There was no corpse in the tomb. You know what was left on the tomb? His clothes. They were neatly folded. What does that mean? He was not taken away. He was not kidnapped. Because it was neatly folded. That means he rose and what he left is neatly folded. Second proof. His body could not be stolen. Why? Because of 2 important truths. There was a huge rock that had to be put as a seal to that tomb. It is so huge, no person or group of persons can ever roll that away. It is so hard to roll away. And number 2, there were soldiers who were posted, who do not sleep, to make sure that the body is not stolen. And the third and most convincing, which is really what we use in a court of law. Who do you bring on the stand? Yes, there were 500 eyewitnesses, beginning with Peter and the other 11, and 500 people who saw Jesus in the first 40 days of his resurrection, before he ascended to heaven. They were eyewitnesses. That's why it's true. So what about the other faiths? What makes Jesus so different from other faiths? Jesus rose from the grave so we can trust what he says. Let me end my time with you by giving you this thought for the week. Let it sink, let it simmer. Jesus is worthy of my entire life. Now, if Jesus is who he says he is, and he is not a liar, he is not a lunatic, then he is Lord. Lord means master. Lord means the one in charge, the one in control. If he is Lord, he is my boss, then I give my whole life to him. I dedicate my whole life to him. It is worth giving my all to him.